Welcome back and thank you for joining us again. This is Ultimate Academy's team presenting ONYX Financial Track. And in this lecture, we will start talking about a new topic, which is the vendors. We'll start with the setup in the accounts payable system. And the first screen that we're taking today is AP parameters. This screen contains two tabs. The first one is account payable system and the second one is advanced options. We'll go with the first one for now. Let's start with vendor code length. This one determines how many digits will the code consist of. And then we have decimal points. You'll just punch in how many digits you need. Vendor code type, either numeric or alphanumeric. Then we have connect AP with GL. From the drop-down menu, you can select group account or multi-account. If you choose group account, then we can create a single account for all the vendors in the chart of accounts, and then you will encode each vendor separately from the vendors module, and they'll all be linked with that account though. Multi-accounts means that we're creating a separate account for each vendor. That of course will expand the chart of accounts tree. Alright, so then we have purchase request sequence, purchase order sequence, and purchase invoices sequence and purchase return sequence. These all contain the same options in the drop-down menu. Let's look at the options to know how they work exactly. Accumulative means that it will give an ordinal sequence for the transactions. As for by type, that means that it will create separate sequences for each type. These two options are in all four, but as for purchase invoices sequence and purchase return sequence, these two include a little bit more options. For example, we can pick cost center, which will make the system create the sequence for each transaction based on the cost center used on that transaction. So it's basically just creating sequences divided by cost centers. This is how it works for the rest of the options also, by the way, which are by payment type, by warehouse code type, by warehouse code, cost center, and so on. Next field is purchase free quantity effect. Not used means we're not using those. Decrease costing mean it means that the free quantity we're receiving and the purchases will decrease the cost. As for post to free quantity account, here the system will put the value of the free quantities in a separate account called free quantity. Discount calculation method. Drop-down menu contains two options, distribute on items or post to discount account. If we're using the first option, then the system will distribute the value of the discount on the items, which means, for example, that if we're buying 3 laptops, let's say, and it's $1,000 per laptop, and we got a $300 discount on all 3. Here the system will distribute the value of that discount, which is $300, on all of the 3 laptops. That makes the cost $900 per laptop. As for post to discount account, the system will take these $300 and put them in a separate account called the discount account. Discount type coding. This one includes 4 options: not use, by item, by vendor, and by item and vendor as well. So if, for example, we went with by item, then the system will encode the discount according to the item. By vendor, by item, and vendor are both the same idea, and of course, not use will disable the discount coding. Duplicate item in purchase. This means that on the purchase transactions, if we got 2 of the same item, the system will allow duplication in 2 choices. So either yes with alert or yes without alert, and no, of course, will disable the duplication. Cost center type, not use, single, and multi. Not use means we're not using a cost center in the purchase transactions. Single means that there will be a single field in the purchase transaction screen for a single cost center, which means that all items in these transactions will be linked to that cost center. Multi means that we will have a column where we can link every item with a cost center in the purchase transactions. Project type, activity type, same options and the same idea, not use single and multi. VAT calculation method, either price or price minus discount. If you choose price, then the system will calculate the VAT based on the total, even if a discount is applied. Price minus discount means that the system will calculate the VAT based on the net price. Connect contract with purchase orders, not use optional or mandatory. In case we want to link the vendor's contracts with a purchase order, then we can go with mandatory. And if we chose that, then we will need to specify the purchase orders on the contracts. Optional means that we can create the contract and the purchase order both separately, and I also have to link them together. I will have the option actually to link them. If I don't want to link them, then I can just move on. Not use, we're not linking the contracts with the purchase orders. Then we have not use purchase return request, not use optional and mandatory. If we choose mandatory, then we cannot place a purchase return unless we have a purchase return request. Optional and not used, then we can create the purchase return without having to place a purchase return request. With optional, by the way, we can retrieve the purchase return request in the transaction of the purchase return. Enter vendor invoice number mandatory, not use, all, purchase invoice and purchase order. If we go with purchase order or purchase invoice, then we will need to enter the vendor's invoice number in all the transactions. If we choose all, then we can enter the vendor's invoice number in both the purchase order and the purchase invoice. Document sequence and date generation. Both contain the same options. System generated modifiable, manual, and system generated not modifiable. Of course, the first one means that the system will generate automatically the document sequence and the date, but the user can modify them. Manual means that the user will enter both, and system generated not modifiable means it's automatic and you cannot make changes. Then we have vendor sequence type, general or by group. General means that the system will create an ordinal sequence for the vendors. But if we have created groups for the vendors, then when we choose by group, the system will create an ordinal sequence for each group separately. Use VAT type, all vendors or by vendor. Here we will calculate the VAT for all vendors, which means that every single transaction with a vendor, the system will calculate the VAT for it. As for by vendor, then we can create a different VAT calculation for each vendor from the vendor's detail screen, or we can select the VAT calculation method in the transaction itself. Then we have use multi-warehouses. If we activate this variable, then the system will add a column in the transaction screen that we can use to select different warehouses for the items included in that transaction. As for fixing data, this one means that, for example, if we add a transaction and stay on the screen but create a new transaction, the system will automatically fill in the main data of the second transaction based on the first transaction that we've entered. Alright, so then we have use local purchase GRN, and that means that we cannot generate a local invoice unless with a local purchase goods received note. Install GRN to many invoices. This one enables us to link the goods received note with more than one invoice, which means that we cannot receive the quantities included in the goods received note divided on several invoices. Use free quantity. You can activate this variable if you want to use free quantities in the vendors module, the purchases to be specific. Use fixed accounts for LC, letter of credit. Here we will create fixed accounts for the letters of credit in the chart of accounts. Then we can create letters of credit and link them to these fixed accounts. Use letter of credit purchase. Here we can receive the letters of credit on several batches, and we can also specify on the letter of credit that it is divided into more than one batch. Fill letter of credit expense in journal voucher. Here the system will allow the user to add the total value of the letter of credit expenses in the journal voucher. Then we have use discount per item, and this one adds a column in the transaction, so the user would be able to add a discount for each item separately. Use purchase checked. In case we have a quality assurance team, then we can activate this variable so they can do their role in checking the purchases. Show estimated cost in request order. When we're placing a purchase order, the system will give you an estimated cost based on the estimated budget. Show free quantity percentage. This variable will add a column to clarify the free quantity percentage, and that's going to be per item. That's everything in this tab. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe, and in the upcoming lecture we will go through the second tab. So we'll see you again soon.